Welcome everyone to another next webinar. Super excited webinar ahead, which is, I would say, fully aligned with current buzz or AI, right? Today's title of the webinar is Scaling for Success, Automating HCP Engagement with AI, right? So today we have four extraordinary panelists. Ladies first. So we have Adela Schultz. Hi Adela from UCB. How are you doing?
Hello, Dario. Thank you very much for having me again as one of your panel participants. And yeah, nice to be here. Nice to speak to you all.
Thank you very much, Adela. Then to my right from Adela, I have Nick Lagan from Grunenthal. Same question for you, which is, I think, the easiest question for today's webinar. Hi, Nick. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Dario. Nice to be here.
Then we have Rasmus Kalms from Anthill.
Nice to meet everyone. Rasmus comes from Anthill here, feeling brilliant, happy to be here.
Live from Boston, Jose Maria, or our very good friend Chema. I believe it's super early for you, so I believe you still are grabbing your coffee, right?
Yes, yeah, not so early. It's 8 a.m., but yeah, nice to meet you, everyone. I'm Chema. I'm working in global marketing, and here on this side of the pond. Nice to meet you.
So let's deep dive into today's discussion. To be honest, I would say we really generated a lot of interest. So registrations went above 200, which certainly just showcases that Pharma is interested in the topic of AI and how potentially to automate HCP engagements. Before we deep dive into our discussion, before we deep dive into case studies which we prepared and some very interesting conclusions, I would like to pass the stage to Rasmus, because he prepared some super exciting presentation. So Rasmus, the stage is all yours, and then we can move forward with the proactive discussion.
Thank you so much for hyping me up. I like it, Dario. Let me know if you can see my screen and what you're actually seeing.
You can see your
buildings.
You can see an Anthill logo going up and down a hospital, right? Oh.
Yes.
That's where it should be. Oh, all right, thank you so much. This is my first time in a while using GoToMeeting webinar. It's usually Zoom or other platforms. So if there's any technical difficulties here, I apologize in advance for that. So my name is Rasmus Kalms. I'm Chief Product Officer here at Anthill. And many of you may know Anthill, many of you may not know Anthill. But one thing that's definitely true about Anthill is that we've changed quite a lot over the last couple of years. So Anthill has gone from being what is probably would have been considered a classic agency within the life science domain to becoming somewhat of a transformational company. We're very focused around, of course, the products we're bringing to bear to support those transformational strategies that we're enacting together with our customers, but also supported by our typical agency service lines and consultancy service lines as well, that are actually needed to create the impact that we need to do. So I will try and do this as brief as possible because, of course, it is more interesting to go back to the panelists. I just want to explain a little bit about what Anthill is and what we do. And Anthill is very focused around the content lifecycle and the different activities going into supporting the content lifecycle. And we do that through, of course, our different products, which I will be unpacking a little bit. So a new upcoming product, which I just will talk a little bit towards as well, since it's very much on topic with HCP engagement. But these different activities spans a lot of different areas, and that's of course something that can be a little bit overwhelming for everyone. With Anthill, you're getting a end-to-end delivery partner when it comes to executing on content excellence, both with the different activities within the different domains, but of course also with the different services needed to support it. So the approach that we typically take is viewed through a lens of, let's call it an internal domain and an external domain. It's quite a classic lens, right? But if we take a look at the internal domain, it's very much about unlocking efficiencies. It's about unlocking efficiencies through your technology usage and how you're actually leveraging that to support your content operations. Of course, all going towards a more efficient degree of campaign activation and supporting all the different transformational activities that go underneath all of that. In the end, to support the external domain, right? Because in the end, it's about driving performance and it's about driving relevancy towards our customers, in this case, HCPs and patients, right? So in this case, it's about utilizing data-driven insights towards actually succeeding in engaging in an omnichannel-like fashion and true end-to-end with personalized content. And that's quite the focus from an Ansel point of view. And to support that focus, we have our 3 different products. And in the center of our product suite, which is called the Ansel Engagement Cloud, we have Activator. And quite a few of you probably already know Activator as a content authoring platform that sits neatly on top of Viva Vault PromoMats. It still does that. It is very much the backbone of our product suite. And with our upcoming release in Activator 3X, we're also not only supporting Viva, but we're also supporting other vendors out there in order to enact your single source of truth. And we'll probably come back to single source of truth as part of this webinar. I can already feel that probably being somewhat of a topic. To the sides of Activator, we're supported through 2 different verticals with content automation and AI with our product Arcane, which I'll likely show just a little bit of, and then audience engagement and HCP engagement through Amplify. In each of these products, there's a number of different capabilities that it can bring to bear to support your engagement activities. From Activator and Arcane, it's about content efficiency and delivering the right content at the right time. That is what Activator and, to a high degree, Arcane can help you with. And Amplify is all about enabling that through sales enablement, delivering content and personalization of the content that you have through channels such as web and self-detailing. Of course, all supported through insights, analytics, meeting bookings, and stuff like that that can support driving towards actual real outcomes and actual value delivery also on the different engagement activities that you actually have. So to our customers themselves, be that patients or HCPs, they of course have a certain amount of expectations. I think it goes without saying, and it's well established at this point in time, they prefer relevant and personal messaging. And they prefer relevant content, and they prefer to be able to be in control of how they can consume that information. They don't necessarily have time to sit down and wait for a spiel from a sales rep to actually finish here. It's a trend we've seen for a while, and it's a trend that is actively continuing. And we believe it is of the utmost importance, and it doesn't matter if you're using our products, other marketing automation products, or the like, that you can actually do targeted and convincing storytelling. Because it's not enough just to have the content, you also need to be able to drive engagement towards that content, it goes without saying, but you also need to enable your customers, HCPs, to find the content that is the most relevant for them, but you also need to be able to support them going through whatever journey we now have set forth in terms of achieving the objective that they need to accomplish the goals that they have. In this case, here's an example. You saw it on the previous slides as well. For instance, in week 6, we want to drive them towards signing up on CoL webinar. That's something we can do with Amplify. And with Amplify as well, and supported by material that could be created with Activator and Arcane, well, maybe we want to present patient support materials later on in their journey and ultimately driving them towards booking a meeting with an MSL. So establishing effective ways of driving behavioral change in HCPs is, of course, crucial. We think it is crucial to improve lead conversion for sales reps and MSLs, and it's a brilliant use case to bring to markets where you have, for instance, lack of field force, or where you might need to divert resource attention to elsewhere. Here you can utilize a platform such as Amplify to go in and improve upon that and automate some of the engagement that we're doing towards HCPs. So when they're actually ready to talk to an MSL or a sales rep, well, then we're funneling them towards that particular outcome. And we can do that through a number of different channels. Self-guided e-details are quite brilliant because they are quite often utilizing already established content, so you don't have to create them from scratch. You likely already have them sitting in your content repository. And you can use that to bridge it towards web, present your e-details on web, and give HCPs access on their own time to actually go through and consume them as well. And that is key, where we want to enable them to explore the content that you already have available, the websites you have available, be able to target them at specific parts of their journey, and also understanding where they're actually coming from. And I'm sure Nick will be talking a little bit to that to understand a little bit more about what the HCP actually want. But we want to be able to guide them with key messages, and here's a brilliant opportunity to actually do that, to ultimately set them free. So that's a lot of talk. And honestly, doing all of this and having the technology in place, the capability in place to actually do personalization is one thing, but actually achieving it is quite another beast, because there's a lot of tasks going into creating personalized content as well. There's just a number of different activities that could be relevant. And then when you're actually succeeding in executing on all of these different activities and ceremonies that you need to go through in order to produce the content you need, the quantity of the content you need, well, there's the key word, quantity, because all of a sudden you're establishing a bottleneck, and then we're facing the issue of MLR. Again, it's not a fair label to put on it to call it an issue, because it's very much a needed thing within our industry at large. But it is also crucial for Ansel that we are ensuring faster and speedier MLR reviews when we're creating all this different content, so we can get it in the hands of HCPs and patients as well. It's something that we have been doing for quite a while inside of Activator through our MLR transparency, but it's something we're seeking to bring into all of our products and also bringing at the forefront of content creation. So where do we go from here? With Arcane, you have an opportunity to go in through what we call content discoverability to find content across your markets, across regions, no language barriers, extremely fast. That's the first release or feature we're adding to our release next month, and it's almost there. And right after that, what we're enabling is going in to automatically create tactics as well, based on all the content that you have found. So let's try and just jump in just to show this a little bit in the way here, how that can actually be doing. Let's try and talk a little bit to Arcane here. So let's ask it, what are the indications for semaglutide? So this instance of Arcane, which I will say is a staging environment, so it is actively being worked on right now, so let's see what happens. But it has a pipeline direct into our Viva Vault promo mats that has been funneled with different materials that we have available. Here we have a number of different PDFs available that are being referenced based on the suggestions that it is providing us with. We can also ask it, what studies are available for diabetes management? And let's say weight loss. That's a big thing these days. Here it's going through as well, based on the context that we established, and it only has access to content that we have already ensured are approved and something that is ready to be explorable and presented to HCPs as well. And it's providing us with a number of different studies, and we can even dive into talking more about, we can ask it to create emails for us, anything like that. But let's try, in the interest of time, just to show a little bit about the particular document we have available here. You can go in and you can translate it to different languages. You can preview it, see it in different languages as well. In this case, I have it already translated to Danish, and we can open it directly into Viva Vault promo mats and get access to it through that. It enables instant access and dissemination of this type of content, and enables you to quite fast go out and use it in your tactics as well. So let me just go back to my presentation here. Ultimately, the goal that we're moving towards from an Ansel point of view is true content automation. Activator is one part of that equation. Arcane is another part of that equation. And the upcoming MLR core that builds in the capabilities into all of our products, but also with Viva Vault promo mats at the center of how you actually be utilizing it, well, that would truly be key. We're launching that in next month. We are building Arcane currently together with a number of different customers. So it's a true co-creation effort by the industry to create a tool that can go in and provide real value out of the gate at launch. So that's it from me. Just, I hope it was a little inspiring in terms of upcoming capabilities, in terms of what we could actually do and achieve within the industry. Let's see if I can actually figure out how to turn off my screen sharing. There we go.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Rasmus. Very interesting presentation, and we all can see that AI is certainly super hyped, like already said. So let's start with a discussion, and my first question which comes to my mind is basically, Like I said, AI is certainly the biggest buzzword in pharma. And imagine if all pharma companies go into the same path and direction of implementing and applied in GenAI. What would be the key value proposition for HCPs to use some particular AI tools instead of others? Maybe we can start with you, Adele.
Yes, sure. Yes, so thank you, Rasmus, for the very nice presentation, first of all, and thank you, Dario, for this question. What I would start by saying is that, as usual, it is not about the actual tools, but it's about how we make use of them, right? So how do we skillfully master them to multiply our potential of what we as humans can do? And I really think that, similar to the Industrial Revolution, I really think that GenAI is literally revolutionizing our world, and this revolution is only just starting. And what I think is very exciting is that we as pharma, we can actually this time be at the beginning, jump on the train at the beginning, be ahead of the game. So I think it's not a secret that, generally speaking, in marketing, we are a bit behind other industries, but here we can actually make it happen now. And there's different use cases. Nick will be talking about, I left them to Nick, some more sophisticated ones. I'll sort of take the more basic ones, but which should also not be taken for granted. So I guess it's all about, do we wait and just look and look for, amazing sophistication, or do we just jump on the wagon and start now with simple things as well? And so, we really make it happen. So I could share a little bit about this use case now, Dario, or later on.
Absolutely.
So talking about, so as I said, I let the more complex one to Nick, but let me share a use case that is you could sort of use as of now immediately. And again, it's all about scaling as well. So some may find what I'm going to share now, which, by the way, is from a marketing, other industry marketing. So what the ideas that I'm going to share are from partly from conferences, marketing conferences that are completely outside of pharma. So again, you see we're all learning together here. It's not just pharma that is behind the learning now. We're all together, they're really yes, so do it now. So typically, webinar, putting together a webinar takes time. You need to create outstanding content, and to Rasmus' point, you need to drive attention also to that content. So whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Gemini, that's the Google ChatGPT, whether it's Microsoft Copilot, whatever your company has, it can help you with everything. So what we do typically, and I can't share specific examples, so I'll remain theoretical, but still as concrete as possible, questions around what's the best timing for my webinar, for my specific target audience. Questions around what's the best title. And I'm always amazed, what the GenAI is able to give as an output today, versus perhaps in the past, where the results were less good. And of course, you may not like the first version, but then you just ask for alternative. You prompt for a second, third, fourth alternative. And I partly, again, what you see is partly going beyond what we as humans could have thought about in terms of enticing titles. Then the text copy, right? So it's as important. You need to drive attendance. You need to write text copy that is outstanding, that is driving that interest to register. So if you put in, again, ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, whatever tool it is, prompts, so it's all about putting the right prompts, right? So your results will be as good or as bad as your prompts are. If you, for example, put in as a prompt, what are the 3 benefits that I'm providing with this webinar or event? What are the 3 challenges that we'll be looking to solve? And then you ask the AI to write you the copy around it. it's done. Again, everything is possible also without, but we're talking about multiplying our potential, being able to be faster, to do things also cheaper, right? We know what agencies charge for these kind of things. And now talking about segmentation, right? So it's all going back to, you know, prompting with the right teaser, with the right content, the right target audience, so that they really feel that you are targeting them. Well, you easily create different copies, and it could be differentiating between hospital-based versus practice-based physicians. It may just be 10 or 20% of the text copy that is different, but it could make a difference in somebody really feeling that this content is targeted for me and for my specific needs. Even if we have, you know, different regulations, different guidelines, different health ecosystem parameters, creating different copies of that promotional asset for, I don't know, North Germany versus South Germany, or for nurses versus GPs. So easily create those different versions of promotional copies that are meant to trigger a reaction and interest from your target audience. Then, of course, you're creating that little issue, as Rasmus was saying, for the approval colleagues, but it's not an issue because Anthill is helping. It's an opportunity. So that's an example of, you know, easily using AI that can make a big difference pre-webinar. During some technologies such as On24 that I'm currently working with and loving it, allows to, based on the segmentation that you've done initially, to then showcase during the webinar different experiences. So different audience segments could see different call to actions, or they could see different next events they are invited to. Another example. And to finish off again around the webinar and the quick wins, we know that already offering on demand is a need nowadays, as physicians and all of us want to consume content when we want it, not when the event organizer wants it. But then we may not all want to listen to the full 60 minutes of that webinar because we don't have the patience to do that. So another amazing opportunity to create that customized content is GenAI there. So out of a 60-minute webinar, obviously even more of an opportunity if the event is longer, you can create a blog summary of highlights, a video highlight summary, a white paper, and some, again, On24 as a technology, not here to sell them, but they are quite amazing, is based on algorithms that are captured during the webinar. So the different interactions, questions, and emojis, and any kind of reactions from the audience during the webinar. It creates key highlights where interest from the audience was biggest, and then create a compilation of all those key highlights where the audience engagement was higher. So easy things to do that can make a big difference.
So the tech is here, but we definitely have to finally implement it, right? So let's move ahead to you, Chema. So how do you see pharma companies can differentiate that their GenAI tool used by the HCP?
Yeah, so thank you, Dario. And by the way, today I'm expressing my own opinions. I'm not representing my company, just a disclaimer I need to do. So
Thank
also
you.
the use case I'm going to talk is about the pharma industry. It's a company that I've been following closely for the way that they use AI. Because to me, if you see the presentation, the great presentation that we saw today, how long does it take now to create content, right, and to translate it? It was like seconds, right, minutes probably. If you want to create a lot, it's going to be minutes. If you see the most recent report from Viva about how much content, how much does a pharma company takes to create content nowadays before using these tools, it's around 3 weeks. So we are reducing 3 weeks to minutes, and obviously, if you consider the amount of pharma companies that are going to be investing in this type of exercise, we're going to have a boom of content, a tsunami of content that is going to be now available to doctors. So my perspective is I think the advantage, or the companies that have that get the advantage, is going to be those that invest in the ability to deliver the content, right? Because if you need to do A/B testing on the fly, for example, you will also need to use AI, right, to do the A/B testing that Adela was mentioning. If you need to find the best way to deliver the webinar to specific segments of doctors, that's not going to be possible to be done with humans anymore, right? Because you're going to have so much content, and it's not going to be enough. So I guess that the companies that see this as through the end-to-end customer engagement journey are going to be the ones who are going to take that competitive advantage, right? How do we make use of that personalized content? And if you want, I can also talk very quickly about the use case that I was discussing, because this company that I mentioned, this is exactly where they are investing a lot. So if you look at their business case, the company is called MedTech, and what they started, and many people know it as hims and hers, and they started as like providing products, generic products for CNS, like for depression and anxiety. And what they do is actually they use all this amount of data that they have to actually start finding both things. So one is the patients, so they start to identify who could be a potential patient for this type of products, and then they give them access to HCPs that can actually give them a telehealth consultation. So they're effectively, like I said, connecting the complete customer engagement journey from the moment of they made doctors aware of this product, but they are also driving the patients towards those doctors. And then on top of that, they are providing the solution where the patient and the doctor can communicate and have that conversation, right? And then ultimately they close the loop, and then they actually send the product to the patients. But the point here is the AI usage. So they from the beginning, they were conceived to use AI to automate all these processes, right? So all these processes that in the past were done by people, like if you wanted to identify patients, you will need to have a patient group or a patient team working on it, and then going to hospitals and doing big events, etc., or to identify patients and get them to diagnose and then send them to a doctor. And then on the other side, you would have to again do your omnichannel campaigns, etc., or Salesforce. But all of that is automated now. So and obviously, I don't have access to their market research reports or market shares, but I do believe that this company is really making a difference in new generations, and they're being able to engage with doctors and patients in a different way using AI. So yeah, that's more or less my contribution.
Thank you, Chema. We will now move to Nick, and he prepared some very interesting use case. But before that, we have a very interesting poll question, so I will just launch that, which is what niche do you see AI solutions occupying next in your omnichannel strategy? So we have 4 options, so you can vote. Maybe we can foresee for the voting like 30 seconds, and then we will display the result.
And maybe, Dario, while this happens, I just want to very quickly chime in with an additional thought that I missed saying in my little intervention earlier in terms of what will make a difference. So so we all have those tools available, which are even Google is at some point, it's an AI-driven search engine. So Google is used by everybody, ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, all of these, yes, they are available to everyone. A big differentiator will be the customer knowledge and the customer centricity of a company. So understanding how important it is to understand, to be customer centric. First of all, it's the mindset thing, understanding how important it is to be customer centric, and then setting up your processes in a way that in each and every interaction touch point, you gather those valuable customer insights through surveys, asking, yes, of course, we know there is a bias, but a lot through doing as well, and then leveraging that understanding, because of course, otherwise, no matter how much fancy personalized content you create, it won't help.
Definitely. Okay, so the results, approximately more than 50 people answered. And the obvious winner is basically, as you can see, content automation and assembly. How would you comment on that? Maybe Rasmus, you can start first.
Well, yeah, well, it's also an interesting question in general. Let me put it this way: we are seeing a lot of success in actually building this out, utilizing the content that you already have available to pre-fill your emails, to go in and create e-detail slides, so on and so forth. So it's not even a question of if, like it is here, and you will see much more of this over the next year, in terms of, well, automating a lot of these, well, creation of smaller scale tactics, right? And localization and translation, it's funny that it's actually only 13%, because what we already have inside of Arcane will get you 80 or 9% where you need to go ready. So it will definitely take up a lot of space, and it will also, well, I guess it will actually not take up a lot of space, because it's actually removing a lot of unnecessary space and just allowing you to be a lot more efficient in your work. And so, yeah, I'm not really surprised at what I'm seeing.
Anyone else want to comment the results, but just briefly and shortly, since we are left with 12 minutes? I see no one. Okay, so let's move now to next use case. So Nick, I will just make you presenter now, so you're able to share the screen. And as far as I understood, you prepared some very interesting use case which you recently developed. So the stage is yours, as we can all see.
Yeah, hopefully you will find it interesting. Can you see the presentation just now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, pass that test then. So yeah, I can do one or two use cases. I should also recognize the fact that, you know, we're piloting a lot of AI initiatives within Grünthal currently. We've got about 15 live pilots, which were distilled from about 100 that we were looking at, and you know, we're looking at doing many more. And the use cases that I'll describe include many of Ant Hill's excellent products like Activator and Amplify to enhance things. So specifically, the first use case was thinking about a webinar, so a common customer event, but it could be any customer event. So this was done by our Italian team, actually. This is a live pilot we're running, and they're thinking about how they can utilize AI to deliver the best possible webinar in terms of registrations, in terms of follow-on activities, etc. So fundamentally, there's two main parts to it. There's the pre-webinar communication flow, and then obviously the post-webinar communication flow. So there's a few different ways that they want to ensure that they maximize the registration for this event. And the first way to do that is to think about how they can profile and target specific customers to attract to them. So our branded webinar portal, or website portal rather, is called Grünthal Health. Now here, through having a built profile of different customer types and through identifying different specialities, they aim to provide pop-ups to customers when they're on the website looking at specific content. So we know many different customers will engage with our websites, but it's really important that they can identify them, authenticate them, have a profile of them, and when they are specific customer types viewing specific content, provide a personalized pop-up to encourage them to register for that webinar. So it's a really nice, almost organic way to gather registrations for the webinar. That's one track. The other track is obviously through more traditional invitations. So their preference is to allow the key account managers a period of time to personally invite customers, either through face-to-face meetings or through approved emails, and to give them a window of time to do that. And after that window of time, to trigger mass mail campaign invitations. So the reason they can do that is, again, we can determine what customers have registered from our target list, what customers haven't registered, and for those customers that haven't registered, have them automatically join a campaign after a certain period of time. So basically, we give the key account managers a period of time, but we don't fully rely on them, and make sure that that's quickly followed up by a triggered campaign. And the third element to that is SMS reminders. So here, again, when we know customers have registered, we can make sure that we send them reminders through SMS, and specifically 2 hours pre-event, send them an SMS with a link where they can also view the content through mobile devices. So that's all pre-webinar. So there might be an element of you saying, well, okay, but what is the AI element of that specifically? And I think, you know, anybody that's close to the technology will know that there's actually a heavy AI component in terms of being able to profile customers, having a unified view of the customers based on different affinities to content that they're interested in, that they engage with. And also there's a heavy AI component in terms of when we send emails, when we send reminders, what channels we use to engage them in. So there's a lot that's done there, but the main AI part that I wanted to showcase was actually in the post-webinar event. So post-webinar, you know, we know we can track the engagement of customers, we can determine who attended and who registered but did not attend, and then we can seek feedback. So for those that attended, obviously we'll survey them to try and get their overall satisfaction. For those that registered but did not attend, we'll send them a thank you email, some downloaded content, hopefully it'll be smartly generated, and give them just what they need, but also we'll measure elements of the satisfaction. Now, importantly, within that, what we're starting to do, and this has been piloted, I must stress that, is provide open text options for the customers. So straight away, everybody's going, oh, no, you can't do that. That's obviously a huge no-go area for us as an industry, obviously because of the compliance considerations. But here, we want to look at it in 2 dimensions, and we think through using AI, ChatGPT, Microsoft Azure, we can apply a sentiment to that open text, and anything that triggers a potential adverse event or mention of anything that could be considered triggering an adverse event results in a Viva suggestion being created so that we can very quickly, within obviously compliance rules and timelines, register that adverse event. I mean, that it's unlikely that there would be any comments in that direction, but we can account for it in terms of applying a sentiment around it. So that allows us to do it. More importantly, from a business perspective, we believe we can attribute a sentiment and a sentiment score to try and understand what they were indicating within their written text. And for instance, if it's something that is perceived to be negative, we can apply a low score. And again, we can provide a suggestion to our key account managers that if it's a very low score or indicates a very low sentiment, that they follow up rapidly. If it's a bit more medium, it can also provide an indication of what was covered within that sentiment. So they've got some insight before they go back in and see the key account manager. So I think it's a really, hopefully, I think it's a really nice case study of how we're starting to adopt the technology that exists within some of these platforms, which we all use, to deliver a better customer experience around, you know, a typical customer event. So that's one use case. I don't know if panel have got any questions around that or it resonates?
I have a question. First of all, this is awesome, and I hope Dario is taking notes in terms of how to run webinars in an automated fashion. But I'm curious if you're far enough along to actually show data in terms of accuracy to the adverse events detection.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a key question. So at the moment, we're not doing this only relying on the technology. A key measure of the pilot is the accuracy. So we don't have full results on that yet, but the results that but we're doing this now with customers with some human oversight. Before doing it, when it was in beta testing, actually the accuracy was really good. I mean, in all of the prompts that we used around anything suggesting an adverse event, we didn't have any instance where it didn't trigger a suggestion, highlight that this was something that would be considered anywhere in the area of an adverse event. So there's a high degree of confidence that allowed us to then pilot it with customers. But,
I mean, it's an interesting stopgap or issue, right, Nick? It's something that gets pulled out of the hat every time we want to expose a text field towards an HCP. But actually, truthfully, we've been able to detect adverse events pretty accurately for a decade now, almost, right? And with GenAI, it becomes even easier to do that. So I don't actually think that's an argument anymore in holding us back in terms of actually exposing a little bit more interesting user interfaces towards HCPs and also allow them to go and search for information on their own. So what I just showed you in talking to Arcane earlier on, right? That could also be exposed to an HCP. You have your repository of approved materials that they are theoretically allowed to see. So why don't you just allow them to browse through that through GenAI as well? It can stay within those limitations. So it's an interesting use case as well. Based on stuff like this, we can take it a lot further in terms of how we can really set our customers free, honestly.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, Nick, and thanks a lot, Rasmus, for the comment. We almost came to the end, and I would certainly like to outlook to the future, but in a balanced way, because usually when we predict things, we miss everything, right? Not only pharma, but humanity in overall. So my question would be, if we outlook in a balanced and realistic way, how do you see the GenAI and applied AI development further in the upcoming 1 to 2 years in pharma? So maybe we can start with you, Adela.
The sky's the limit.
Okay.
The sky's the limit. As long as we don't set ourselves apart too much, because as we keep on saying, our stakeholders are consumers in their real life. So they deal on the one side with pharma, but they deal with all the other brands as well. Of course, we have compliance, but there are many ways to manage compliance very properly, despite adopting new ways of working. So yes, keeping in the game, jumping on the train and being there versus watching it for too long or thinking it through for too long or waiting for perfection, and also piloting. A very quick use case that I didn't mention before, a pilot that we initiated with SciencePod to deliver. So in the idea that, for a congress, an international congress, how do you provide value to your stakeholders, to your customers? You want them to get out of those 4 or 5 days of congress as much knowledge and understanding as possible. So one way of doing that is to provide them summarized publications of speakers that will be speaking at the congress, summarized publications in infographics, for example, in advance, so that you give them this background knowledge, this context. And here, SciencePod is a company that can do that really well. And it's another example of not being fearful, but just trying things out and then seeing how it lands with your customers and taking it further. So those would be the two pieces, I'd say. But yeah, the sky's the limit. The world will change. Revolution.
So long story short, flying reps and MSLs, right? Nick?
Yeah, so the time window is the next couple of years. Is that right, Darren?
Exactly, 1 to 2 years.
I mean, personally, I think the next couple of years we've got a fairly good view of the direction of travel. You know, it's going to be more, much more personalization, triggered campaigns, having a CRM system which actually helps inform what field teams can do and provide them with some real insight. Generating content at scale. I think all of these things that we've talked about today, I think that's definitely kind of the next 2 years. I think after that, who knows? You know, I had a conversation with one of the top guys in one of the top companies that we'll work with just last week, and he gave a very nice presentation, and he said this pretty much the same thing. You know, he said, you know, no idea really, you know, within the sort of 3 to 5 year time period, but the next couple of years is pretty, you know, it's pretty clear, I think, where things are going.
In a couple of years, Dario, you may have these webinars with AI panelists.
Okay. So they are going for us. Okay, good to hear.
Yeah, so for me, my mind blows when I think about the future, and I have no idea, but the places where I have been thinking is, one is I think there's going to be much more usage and trial from the industry on this type of tools. Like, for example, you may have probably heard about AI pin, which is a pin that you can use that actually has AI, and you control it with your fingers, and it shows messages in your hand. So instead of taking out your phone, you just press it and then it shows. Or you can actually use the camera to identify different things. Like you can see a flower and you say, okay, tell me which kind of flower is that, etc. So if you think about those things applied to healthcare or to pharma, I think there are many more people are going to start looking at those tools and then trying them, right? So we're going to see a lot of usage of those into the healthcare environment. Like if you probably heard the news, also NVIDIA is developing already virtual nurses using GenAI. So that's going to reach us at some point in pharma, right? So we're going to have to enter into how do we educate those tools now, right? How do we not just educate the humans, but also generate the right evidence to provide to those virtual nurses that are going to be in the hospitals providing care to the patients, right? So I think this is where in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to be talking much more about those two things, the usage of GenAI and then the educating the AI, the language models, basically.
I think that basically that piece of tech which you mentioned was developed by former Apple engineers, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
You should Google it. It's a nice piece of tech. So let's see if that will be implemented. Rasmus, final words. Same question for you. How do you see the outlook, especially from a vendor side? Where to move the technology?
Well, I put my money on content automation, like literally. So that's definitely a direction where I'm seeing it going. But I think you Chema, and well, all the panelists actually have highlighted something that would be really interesting. It is, first of all, right now, if you need to use large language models, you need access to the cloud in order to do that fast enough, right? Siri is still pretty dumb when you're talking to Siri. But when you get to have embedded LLMs on your phone that can execute on these types of GenAI activities, well, such as the pin, as you were just talking about, Gemma, I think that's super interesting what will come from it, potentially come from a device point of view. We've gotten so used to our iPhones now and multi-touch and all of that, but that blew up the world, you know, decade plus 20 years ago. And what will happen here is just, I think it's impossible to foresee, and I think it's going to be extremely interesting to follow.
Thanks a lot, Rasmus. With that said, I would like to thank you so much for joining this webinar, and basically everyone is joining our upcoming next conference in May, except Chema, but next time for sure, and except Rasmus. So you're not so lucky, but the others until colleagues are. But
I can feel upset about that one.
My generative AI avatar.
They can bring some salt water from the ground to Denmark for you as well. So thank you so much for joining this webinar. It was a great pleasure. We will also publish this webinar on our official YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe. If you have any questions to the next team or to our speakers, I believe you can reach out to them. So thank you so much, and looking to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.